What if Bruno Mars wasn't just looking into the crowd during Dance With Me at MetLife Stadium? What if, for just a few seconds, his eyes appeared to stop on one particular area of the audience, and suddenly, fans started asking the same question. Was Bruno Mars looking for someone special? Night 46 of the romantic tour had everything fans have come to expect from Bruno Mars. Massive energy, emotional vocals, a stadium full of screaming hooligans, and that unmistakable romantic atmosphere that has defined this tour. But when Dance With Me returned as the encore, one small moment seemed to create an entirely different story. And yes, the name that immediately started floating around the conversation was Karol G. Before we go any further, if you're following Bruno Mars, the romantic tour, Karol G, and every unexpected moment happening on this massive tour, hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. Do you think Bruno was actually searching for someone in the crowd, or was it simply part of his performance? Because what happened during those final moments is interesting precisely because Bruno didn't need to say anything. The lights were already doing the talking. The crowd had already been pushed to its emotional limit. And then Bruno Mars returned for the encore. Dance With Me. The song has become one of the most talked about moments of the romantic tour, especially because of the way Bruno performs it. Unlike a typical stadium finale built entirely around spectacle, Dance With Me creates a more intimate atmosphere. The production becomes softer, the energy changes, and suddenly the enormous MetLife Stadium feels like a much smaller room. That contrast is exactly what makes the moment so powerful. Thousands of people are watching. Phones are in the air. Fans are singing every word. And Bruno is standing in the middle of it all. But during the performance, viewers noticed something. His attention appeared to move across the audience. Not just a quick glance. Not simply the normal interaction between a performer and fans. For a brief moment, Bruno seemed to look deeper into the crowd, almost as if he was trying to locate a familiar face. And that tiny detail was enough to ignite speculation. Was he looking for someone? Was someone important sitting somewhere in that stadium? Or was Bruno simply connecting with fans during an emotional part of the show? That distinction matters, because there is currently no confirmation that Bruno Mars was looking for Karol G. There is no official statement from Bruno. There is no confirmed sighting establishing that Karol G was the person he was searching for. So the idea should remain exactly what it is. Fan speculation based on a moment captured during the performance. But that doesn't mean the moment isn't worth discussing. Far from it. Because Bruno Mars and Karol G have already created a major connection in the music conversation surrounding 2026. Karol G's upcoming album and its tracklist have already attracted enormous attention, especially after Bruno Mars was associated with the project on the song Still. And when two global superstars are connected professionally, fans naturally start watching every interaction more closely. A glance becomes a theory. A smile becomes a headline. A backstage photo becomes a viral moment. And a few seconds of eye contact during a stadium concert, that can become an entire internet mystery. Now zoom in. Look at the timing. Bruno is performing Dance With Me, the song that has increasingly become associated with the romantic and emotional side of the romantic tour. The stadium is illuminated, the audience is engaged, and Bruno is moving through the performance with the confidence of someone who has performed the same song many times. But there are moments when his expression changes. His eyes move. He scans the audience. And for viewers watching closely, it can almost look like he is trying to recognize somebody. This is where the story becomes fascinating. Because Bruno Mars has always been an artist who communicates through body language. He doesn't need to stop a show and explain every emotion. Sometimes a smile is enough. Sometimes a gesture is enough. Sometimes a pause tells the audience more than a paragraph ever could. And during Dance With Me, those small details become magnified because the entire atmosphere is built around intimacy. The romantic tour may be a stadium production, but Bruno has repeatedly found ways to make enormous spaces feel personal. That is one of his biggest strengths as a live performer. He can stand in front of tens of thousands of people and somehow make the performance feel like a private conversation. That is why fans noticed the look. Because if you're watching Bruno simply perform, you might miss it. But if you're watching frame by frame, the question becomes harder to ignore. Who was he looking at? Could it have been a friend? A member of his team? A celebrity guest? A family member? A familiar fan? Or was it simply someone in the audience who caught his attention at exactly the right moment? And then there is the Karol G theory. It sounds dramatic. It sounds almost too perfect. But that is exactly why fans are talking about it. Bruno Mars and Karol G have been connected through music, and the possibility of seeing Karol G at a Bruno Mars concert naturally creates excitement among both fan bases. Imagine the reaction if Karol G really had been somewhere inside MetLife Stadium. Thousands of fans would immediately begin searching the crowd. Social media would explode. Every camera phone would suddenly become a potential piece of evidence. And within minutes, fans would be comparing videos, screenshots, outfits, seating areas, and every possible angle. But here is where we need to slow down. There is a huge difference between a possibility and a confirmed appearance. And right now, the safest conclusion is that Bruno's apparent search of the audience remains an intriguing visual moment. Not proof that Karol G was there. That doesn't make the moment less exciting. In fact, it makes it more interesting, because the mystery is still open. And the romantic tour has already shown that unexpected moments can become some of its most memorable. Think about the scale of this tour. Bruno Mars returned to the road with the romantic tour after a long period of anticipation surrounding his solo era. The tour has become a massive live spectacle, bringing together the classic Bruno Mars formula of funk, pop, soul, R&B, romance, choreography, musicianship, and larger-than-life stadium production. But despite all of that technology and production, fans continue to obsess over the human moments. A smile, a gesture, a reaction, a guest, a hug, a change in the set list, an unexpected song, or a moment when Bruno looks into the crowd and appears to recognize someone. That is what makes live music impossible to completely script. You can rehearse the choreography, you can program the lighting, you can prepare the set list, you can build an enormous stage, but you cannot completely control what happens when an artist looks into a crowd and sees something or someone that catches their attention. And that may be exactly what happened at MetLife Stadium. Now here is where things get even more interesting. Dance With Me returning as the encore gives the moment additional significance. For fans who have been following the tour closely, the encore has become a storyline of its own. There have been nights when Bruno has changed the ending. There have been performances where fans expected a certain finale and received something different. And there have been moments when the encore itself became the emotional conclusion of the entire night. But on night 46 at MetLife Stadium, Dance With Me remained in that crucial final position. And that means the last image many fans carried away from the concert was Bruno Mars standing under the lights, surrounded by thousands of people, performing one of the tour's most intimate songs. Then came the look. That's the detail that refuses to disappear. Because imagine watching the footage without any context. You see Bruno singing. You see the crowd. You see the lights. Then his attention moves toward a particular section. For a moment, his expression seems different. He looks. He continues. And the performance goes on. That is all. But in the world of celebrity culture, sometimes that is all is exactly what starts the conversation. Fans begin asking questions. Was there a special guest? Was somebody important seated there? Was Bruno reacting to something happening in the crowd? Did someone wave? Did he recognize a face? Or was it simply a natural moment of audience interaction? And because Karol G is already part of the Bruno Mars conversation in 2026, her name naturally becomes one of the first possibilities fans mention. But we should not turn speculation into fact. There is no verified confirmation that Bruno was searching for Karol G. What we can say is that the moment happened, fans noticed it, and the timing created an intriguing connection to the ongoing Bruno Mars and Karol G storyline. And honestly, that may be enough to make it fascinating. Because the biggest moments in pop culture don't always begin with an announcement. Sometimes they begin with a question. And this one is simple. Who was Bruno Mars looking for? Stay with that question for a second, because there is another layer to it. Bruno Mars is currently in one of the most closely watched periods of his career. The romantic tour has transformed his return to solo touring into a major global event. Every show creates new footage. Every city produces new fan reactions. Every guest appearance creates new headlines. That means every unscripted moment becomes valuable. And MetLife Stadium is not an ordinary venue. Playing multiple nights at a stadium of this scale places enormous attention on the artist. The audience is massive. The cameras are everywhere. Fans are recording from every possible angle. That makes it almost impossible for a subtle moment to remain unnoticed. One person catches it. Another fan posts a different angle. Someone slows down the footage. Someone else compares it with another performance. And suddenly, a few seconds become a viral discussion. That is the power of modern concert culture. The audience is no longer simply watching the show. The audience is documenting the show. Every phone becomes another camera. Every fan becomes another reporter. And sometimes the audience notices details even the official production team never intended to highlight. That appears to be what happened here. The performance itself was the main event. Dance With Me was the encore. Bruno delivered the song. The crowd responded. But somewhere in those final moments, fans saw something that made them pause. A look. A search. Possible recognition. And suddenly the question became bigger than the song. Could Karol G have been somewhere inside MetLife Stadium? Again, there is no confirmation. But the possibility alone is enough to make fans revisit the footage. And this is where the story becomes less about proving a celebrity was there and more about understanding why fans reacted so strongly. Bruno Mars and Karol G represent two enormous musical worlds. Bruno is one of the biggest pop and R&B performers of his generation. Known for live performance, retro-inspired production, showmanship, and a catalog filled with global hits. Karol G has become one of the defining forces in Latin music and global pop, building a massive international audience through reggaeton, Latin trap, pop, and crossover collaborations. When those worlds intersect, fans pay attention. And when they are connected by a song like Still, every public appearance becomes a potential moment. That is why the Karol G theory has such momentum. It is not coming from nowhere. It is coming from an existing musical connection. But until there is direct evidence, it remains speculation. And that distinction is important, because the most exciting stories are often the ones where we can enjoy the mystery without pretending we already know the answer. Now picture the stadium one more time. The lights are low. The crowd is still screaming. Bruno is near the end of the show. The final notes are approaching. The audience knows the night is almost over. And instead of ending with a giant explosion of production, the moment becomes personal. Bruno looks outward. Thousands of faces are looking back. And somewhere in that sea of people, there may have been a face he recognized. Or perhaps there wasn't. Maybe he was simply absorbing the crowd. Maybe he was responding to a fan. Maybe somebody shouted his name. Maybe a familiar person caught his attention. Or maybe, just maybe, there was someone special in that audience. We simply don't know yet. And that uncertainty is what makes the footage so compelling. Because if Karol G was actually there, fans may eventually find clearer evidence. A fan recording, a backstage photo, a security detail, a sighting, a social media post. Something could eventually connect the dots. But until that happens, the mystery remains. And perhaps that is the perfect ending for Night 46. Not a confirmed celebrity reveal, not a dramatic announcement, but a question hanging in the air after the final note. Who exactly was Bruno Mars looking for? One thing is certain. Dance With Me remains one of the most emotionally charged moments of the romantic tour, And night 46 at MetLife Stadium added another layer to its growing story. Bruno Mars came to the stadium to perform. He delivered the hits. He brought the romance. He gave the audience the encore they had been waiting for. And then, for a few seconds, he seemed to look beyond the crowd and toward someone only he may have recognized. Was it Karol G? There is no confirmation, but the internet has already started asking. And until someone provides the answer, that tiny moment at MetLife Stadium may remain one of the most intriguing mysteries of the romantic tour. So now we want to hear from you. When you watch the moment, what do you see? Was Bruno simply scanning the audience? Did he recognize somebody? Or do you believe there was a specific person he was trying to find? And most importantly, do you think Karol G could have been somewhere inside MetLife Stadium that night? Drop your theory in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Bruno Mars, the romantic tour, Dance With Me, MetLife Stadium, Karol G, and all the moments fans are talking about, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because with Bruno Mars still commanding the stage, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The biggest moments are not always the ones written into the set list. Sometimes they happen between the lines. Sometimes they happen in a glance. And sometimes, all it takes is one look into the crowd to make thousands of fans ask the same question. Who was Bruno Mars looking for? But the story doesn't end when the final note disappears. In fact, that may be where the real conversation begins. Because once the lights came back on and fans started leaving MetLife Stadium, the question surrounding Bruno Mars' apparent glance into the audience didn't simply disappear with the concert. It followed them out of the stadium. It moved onto social media. It entered fan discussions. And suddenly, one tiny moment from the Dance With Me encore became something much larger. People started replaying the footage. Some fans focused on Bruno's eyes. Others focused on his facial expression. Some watched his body language. And others immediately connected the moment to the biggest name currently linked to Bruno Mars in the conversation surrounding his upcoming music, Karol G. But let's slow down. Because there is something important about moments like this. When a superstar performs in front of tens of thousands of people, looking into the crowd is completely normal. Bruno Mars has spent years mastering audience interaction. He points. He smiles. He reacts. He jokes. He locks eyes with fans. He responds to signs. He moves around the stage. And sometimes he appears to recognize people. So simply looking into the audience is not evidence of anything unusual. The reason this moment feels different is because of the timing. It happened during Dance With Me. It happened during the encore. And it happened after an entire night of emotional performances, massive production, and intense fan energy. That context makes every expression feel more meaningful. Imagine being Bruno. You've just spent the entire night performing. Your body is exhausted. Your voice has already traveled through dozens of songs. The crowd has been screaming for hours. And then you reach the final stretch. The lights become softer. The atmosphere changes. The audience starts singing along. You look out. And suddenly, one person catches your attention. Could be anyone. But if that person is familiar to you, even for a split second, your eyes naturally move toward them. That is the human side of live performance. And that is why the mystery continues. Because fans are not only analyzing what Bruno did, they are trying to understand what he might have seen. Was there movement in the crowd? Was someone waving? Was there a celebrity section? Was there a familiar face? Was Bruno responding to something happening near the front rows? These are questions that only clearer footage might answer. And that is where social media becomes interesting. A single concert video can create dozens of different interpretations. One fan sees Bruno looking left. Another sees him looking toward the center. Someone else believes he was looking farther back. Then another video appears from a completely different angle. Suddenly, the timeline changes. This is why concert footage can be both exciting and misleading. A camera angle captures only one part of the room. The viewer sees what the camera operator decided to film. The rest of the stadium remains outside the frame. So when fans ask whether Bruno was looking for Karol G, the honest answer is simple. We need more evidence. And until that evidence appears, the Karol G connection should remain a theory. But there is another reason the speculation has become so interesting. Bruno Mars is not simply another artist releasing music with another artist. His connection to Karol G has the potential to bring together two enormous international audiences. Bruno's global pop audience and Karol G's Latin music audience overlap in fascinating ways. And the idea of those two worlds meeting on stage, backstage, or even inside the same stadium naturally creates enormous curiosity. That is why fans are watching. They are not only watching the performance, they are watching for clues. And the romantic tour has become a perfect environment for clues because every night can be different. Different cities, different guests, different reactions, different outfits, different fan interactions, different surprises, and sometimes different songs. That unpredictability is part of what keeps people following the tour even when they are thousands of miles away. You may not have a ticket. You may not be anywhere near New Jersey. But you can still wake up the next morning and see a clip from the previous night that suddenly becomes the biggest conversation among Bruno Mars fans. That is the modern stadium tour experience. The show ends inside the venue. The story continues online. And Night 46 is a perfect example. The encore itself was already significant. Dance With Me has developed a special identity during this tour. It doesn't feel like just another song in the set list. Feels like a closing statement, a final emotional connection between Bruno and his audience. And when Bruno appears to search through the crowd during that song, fans naturally begin assigning meaning to it. But perhaps the most interesting possibility is that there may not be a dramatic explanation at all. Maybe Bruno was simply looking at someone who was enjoying the song. Maybe he saw a fan holding a sign. Maybe he recognized someone from a previous show. Maybe a friend was somewhere in the stadium. Maybe he was looking toward a section where he knew people connected to the production were sitting. Or maybe he simply looked into the crowd because that is what performers do. And sometimes the simplest explanation is the correct one. But that doesn't mean we should ignore the bigger picture. Because this is Bruno Mars we are talking about. Every small gesture becomes magnified because his performances are watched by millions of people. Every change becomes a potential headline. Every unexpected moment becomes a discussion. And when a name like Karol G enters the conversation, the attention multiplies. That is why this moment deserves careful analysis rather than an exaggerated conclusion. There is no need to claim something happened when we don't know. The mystery is already interesting enough. Now think about what could happen next. If Karol G is eventually spotted at a Bruno Mars concert, the footage from Night 46 will suddenly look very different. Fans will go back. They will replay the moment. They will compare the timing. They will ask whether Bruno already knew she was there. They will search for clues that were invisible the first time. And suddenly, what looked like an ordinary audience interaction could become part of a much bigger story. But if Karol G was not there, then the moment becomes something else. A reminder of how easily fans can turn a spontaneous concert interaction into a pop culture mystery. Either way, it demonstrates the enormous attention surrounding Bruno Mars right now. The romantic tour is not simply a sequence of concerts. It has become a continuous global conversation. And MetLife Stadium is one of the biggest stages on that journey. The scale alone makes the night significant. Thousands upon thousands of fans gathered to see Bruno Mars perform live. And among all those people, countless cameras captured different pieces of the same performance. That means somewhere, potentially, there is footage we have not seen yet. A different angle, a different section, a different reaction, maybe even a few seconds that could completely change the conversation. That possibility is what keeps fans searching. Because the internet has a strange relationship with celebrity mysteries. The less we know, the more people want to know. And the more ordinary the moment appears, the more fascinating it can become when fans believe there is something hidden underneath. That is exactly what happened here. A look became a question. The question became a theory, and the theory became connected to Karol G. But the final answer? Still missing. And until Bruno Mars himself explains what happened, nobody outside that moment can know exactly what was going through his mind. Maybe that is the beauty of live music. Not everything has to be explained. Some moments are allowed to remain spontaneous. Some expressions are allowed to remain private. And some glances can belong only to the person giving them and the person receiving them. So perhaps the most important thing is not whether Bruno was looking for Karol G. Perhaps the real story is what that moment tells us about the relationship between Bruno Mars and his audience. He knows how to make people feel seen. He knows how to create intimacy inside enormous venues. And he knows that one look can be more powerful than an elaborate production sequence. The crowd at MetLife Stadium didn't just watch a concert. They participated in it. They sang. They screamed. They danced. They recorded. They reacted. And Bruno responded. That exchange is what makes a live Bruno Mars performance different from simply listening to a studio recording. The audience becomes part of the show. And sometimes the audience gives Bruno a moment he never planned. Maybe Night 46 was one of those